We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Monday, but it is a holiday. It is Memorial Day. It also happens to be my wife's birthday. She is 65 today. I was 65 last month. I was telling her it was kind of interesting that, oh, by the way, this is a Substack Live. For those of you listening to it as a podcast, those of you joining the live, thank you for helping me out here and making this a little more interesting by giving your input. Um, but I was telling my wife the other day that when we first met, we were both about 21. So our cumulative age was 42. We are now 65, some 42 years later. Our cumulative age, 65 apiece, is now 130. That's crazy. That's absolutely nuts. And I don't know. I don't know what to make of that, but we are all getting older. I'm certainly getting older. I'm still dealing with a little bit of a cold here, so bear with me. Got a head cold. Sometimes it's in my chest. You know, you get old. I know where I got this too. Last time I saw my granddaughter, she had a cold and she insists on kissing on the lips. I don't know why, but I'm sure I got it from her. But honestly, if I got it from my granddaughter, that's cool. I'm going to see her later today. We're going to meet with my son, his wife, and my granddaughter for my wife's birthday. We're having a little breakfast or lunch or something like that. And maybe I can give it back to her. Maybe that's what I can do. So, anyway, we are on a Substack Live. I've told you before, I enjoy the Substack Lives. I like doing TikTok Lives too, and sometimes YouTube Lives. But Substack is probably the easiest for me because I don't need moderators here. I don't have a bunch of crazy fucking Trumplefucks running all over the place trying to create chaos or steal a platform or try to get you kicked off. We don't have to worry about that, at least at this point on Substack, and I'm grateful for that. Reason I brought that up is because I was reading on Facebook. Yeah, I look on Facebook now and again. Many of you know I don't have a Rational Boomer Facebook account anymore because I got fucking banned by for the same content I put here and TikTok and YouTube. I don't know. Fuck Facebook. I don't even care. But there's a guy that grew up in my neighborhood. He's a bit younger than I, and he is a hardcore Trumplafuck. And not surprisingly, he's a dumb shit. Well, he wrote a post talking about remembering somebody who lost their life 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And naturally, you would think that he was talking about George Floyd because that was about 5 years ago. No, he was talking about Derek Chauvin, how this guy unjustly got put into prison. I swear to God, these Trumplafucks are just looking for attention. They're trying to rile people up. And when they come into TikTok or YouTube, that's what they're trying to do. They can't garner a platform on their own, so they come on somebody else's platforms, try to say shit to own the libs. Let me tell you something, Trumplafucks, if any of you are out there at this point, um, we don't care anymore. We're happy just to sit back and watch you and Trump and everybody around him fail because you're failing every day. And Kevin Riley brings up the West Point disgrace. And I wanted to talk about that. I have talked about it before. We've got this book that Jake Tapper put out, just a hack, about the cognitive ability of Joe Biden. And now he's sick with prostate cancer. And all I have to say is about a book about Joe Biden and whether he was cognitively able or not. Who fucking cares? He's a private citizen currently. Nobody cares. We've got somebody in office, sitting president, who has some cognitive issues. And when Kevin brings up the West Point disgrace, he's absolutely right. I don't know if he accounted for the fact that there would be clips of that speech played, but the things he had to talk about at a commencement speech were absolutely ridiculous. Here's an opportunity when these cadets have graduated and are headed off into the future. You're trying to do something inspirational. But Donnie Trump's got to talk about his big election win, his mandate, or his golf game. Then he starts talking about some developer that he knows. He's brought him up before and talks about his trophy wife. This motherfucker's gone off the hook here a little bit. We want to talk about Joe Biden and whether he was unhinged or not. Well, I tell you what, here's the deal with Joe Biden. Joe Biden may have had some cognitive difficulties. Maybe he didn't. But the fact of the matter is while he was in office, he was probably the most productive president in the history of this country. Donald Trump is probably one of the worst presidents in this country. He knocked down the stock market. Inflation is going up. Prices are going up. Everything is just an absolute shit show. So if Biden was cognitively diminished, I'm cool with it because he did a fucking good job. Donald Trump, nobody's talking about his problems, even though they are many, but he's doing a shitty job. When it comes down to it, let's just see who's working for the country and doing what's best for the country. Biden did, Donald Trump did not. Angry Mongoose says, also Trump wore the stupid MAGA red hat at West Point. Yeah, this motherfucker is just disrespectful. And it's not surprising given the fact that he only cares about himself. People want to think that he's out there working for them, and that's just not the case. And that's what I find so hard to imagine is that these people that support Donald Trump think he's out there working for them. It's like a bunch of um, it's like an abused family, a dysfunctional family. This guy's a piece of shit, and they just love him no matter what happens. And it's frustrating because you and I can see what the problem is, but for whatever reason, they cannot see it. They don't get it. They have no idea what he's doing or why he's doing it, even when he does bad things. I'm convinced that these people are just too prideful to admit when they're wrong. Because when you see farmers losing their businesses, people losing their jobs, Donald Trump losing day after day in court, you would have to think, well, maybe I should question this guy, but they don't. They don't. And this is what I've said before. Apparently, we have to have a calamity or a disaster of some sort before these people wake up or at least admit they were wrong. But make no mistake, um, they were wrong. We tried to tell them for a year leading up to the election. They would not listen. Some of them are coming out and saying, well, I didn't expect this. Well, you expected somebody to get hurt. You just didn't expect you to get hurt. And now that you're getting hurt, you have a problem with it. This whole thing with the tariffs is frustrating to me too. Donald Trump tells us that tariffs are going to bring in all kinds of manufacturing and money. But I will tell you this, Donald Trump and his tariffs never had anything to do with bringing in manufacturing or bringing in money. He knew better. The people around him knew better. This is just a big stick for Donald Trump, and this is typical of Donald Trump's negotiation strategy. I'm going to go in, I'm going to threaten them with a big stick. They're going to give in, and I'll get whatever I want. Well, unfortunately, it's not working out that way. China, he claims to have a deal with them. He has little more than a pause, but there's still a 30% tariff there. It's going to cause some problems that we will see here very shortly. We will be impacted and those prices will go up. He'll try to divert it to Biden or whoever the fuck. But make no mistake, it's Donald Trump. It's his actions that are causing the problems in this country, and the problems will continue to grow. Now, recently, he came out angry with the EU, the European Union. He was upset with them because they weren't calling him, they weren't negotiating with him, which I find kind of funny, actually, because didn't Donald Trump tell us as soon as I put out those tariffs, everybody was knocking on the door, ringing the phone off the hook, begging to negotiate with us? China didn't do that. England didn't do that. The EU didn't do that. So he gets mad at the EU for not negotiating with him, and he says, listen, on June 1, I'm going to put a 50% tariff on everything you send to the United States. Now, when Donald Trump imposes these tariffs, it's funny. How many times has he backed down from those tariffs? Every fucking time. It has nothing to do with the tariffs. It has everything to do with him trying to be a bully. So today he comes out and says, well, I got a nice call from the EU. Nice call. So I'm going to extend the tariffs till July 9th. To me, this proves he's a pussy ass bitch. He's weak. Whenever you make a threat, if you don't follow through with the threat, people don't respect you. And Fawn McFarland says, didn't he just back off the tariffs? Well, he backed off the tariffs to the EU. He's now, instead of June 1st, giving them to July 9th. And then when July 9th comes up, he'll back off of it then. Nobody's willing to negotiate with Donald Trump because Donald Trump can't be trusted. He tells them one thing and then does another. He gets angry and then he imposes tariffs. Then he gets scared because it's going to cause some problems here. And then he backs off the tariffs. This never was about tariffs. This was Donald Trump's big stick to intimidate other countries. What he didn't plan on, because he's a dumb fuck, is that these people were getting tired of being intimidated, tired of being lied to, and they're just going to say, fuck yourself. Like I said, with China, we have this pause, but there's still a 30% tariff, and there's been less product coming from China to this country. We will be impacted by this. We will be affected by this ultimately. And then people are going to start realizing that we're fucked. Dean Bohan says the people in this country do not realize that the ports on the West Coast are almost empty with nothing coming. TikTok time is counting down. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there's more coming now after the pause, but still not as much as they used to bring in. And what you have to understand is even if you pulled all the tariffs off, there's damage that's being done. I'll give you an example. Back in his first term, he put the tariffs on. And then he gave some exceptions, like to Apple and the iPhone. We'll talk about that in a moment. But China stopped buying soybeans from the farmers and fucked them up pretty bad. So bad that Donald Trump had to bail them out to the tune of $58 billion. Well, here's the deal. When the tariffs came off and Donald Trump was out the door, China did start buying soybeans again, but only half as much as they were before. So this means the cost of soybeans goes down, farmers make less money, even though Donald Trump bailed them out. What are they doing now? So once again, they won't buy soybeans or whatever else, and Donald Trump will. Well, some people think he'll bail out the farmers, and I think Congress wants to bail out the farmers. But the fact of the matter is Donald Trump is pretty transactional. He's not going to do anything unless he gets something in return. So I don't know if they will get bailed out. But we're sitting on the precipice of some pretty damaging shit going on. Fawn says it's going to hurt Iowa farmers. Yeah, it's going to hurt farmers all over the country, but particularly Iowa. It's going to affect Nebraska too, a state that they're talking about maybe even going bankrupt. It's going to affect my state of Minnesota. Cheryl says, and he crashes the stock market again after announcing the EU tariffs. I know it went back up when he put on the pause. Yeah. Well, see, that's the whole point. Donald Trump is just sticking around here. He talks about the tariffs on the EU. Everything about the stock market is strictly speculative. When something like that happens, they decide, oh, this is going to fuck things up. The stock market drops. Then he says he's putting a pause back on, and it goes up again. Whenever Trump fucks come to you and say, well, the stock market just went up. It's going great now. I want you to understand something. In February, just after Donald Trump took over, the remnants of Joe Biden's stock market, the Dow Jones reached 45,000 points. Okay. If you're looking at the stock market today, the Dow Jones is under 42,000 points, closer to 41,000 points. So we're 3 or 4,000 points different from just February. And that's all due to Donald Trump. It's what he's doing and the dicking around. And when he offers up the tariffs and they go down, then it comes back up. That instability doesn't work real well for the stock market. You don't know what to plan for. You don't know what to invest in. You don't know if it's going to go up or down, and people don't want to take the risk of, excuse me, of investing. All of this has an immense amount of effect on what we're doing here, and it's frustrating to see him do this. The fact is, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing is damaging, and so do the Republicans. But they're just back there supporting him and um, cheering him on as they do. And it's not good for this country. It's not good for our economic situation in this country. So, did you hear about him talking about Vladimir Putin? Now, Donald Trump told us that within 24 hours after being elected, not inaugurated, elected, he would end the Russia-Ukraine war. He said it would never happen if I was here. Well, the Russia-Ukraine war is continuing. There are people dying. Donald Trump has been trying to negotiate a peace plan, but his peace plan basically is Zelensky, just give Vladimir whatever he wants. And Zelensky's not going to do that. So then Donald Trump has to go back to Vladimir Putin and say, well, come on, let's work this out. Now, Vladimir Putin has been playing Donald Trump for some 40 years. Donald Trump is a useful idiot. He is a Russian asset. But I will say this, I don't think he realizes he's a Russian asset. He's just a fucking simpleton, and these people know how to manipulate him, and that's exactly what they're doing. Now, in spite of these alleged peace talks, Vladimir Putin is sending in drones and such and bombing Kiev and bombing other places in the Ukraine. And Donald Trump is getting frustrated. He says, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what's changed. He's going crazy. He's killing people every day. Yeah, Donnie, this shouldn't surprise you because Vladimir Putin is a murderous dictator. He has been for decades. Now, maybe he fooled you, but we all knew it. And the fact that he isn't listening to you is no big surprise. He's not going to listen to you. All right. The Brutal Truth Podcast. There are no more Republican Party, Trump MAGA cult party of uneducated and illiterate idiots. You're absolutely right. The Republican Party is no longer what it once was, and we can call it the MAGA Party, but that will go down to the tubes when Donald Trump is done. And trust me, he will be done at some point. Cheryl Stevens says, I have to think that Trump is blackmailing the Republicans. If he goes down, they go down. I think there's probably something to that. I don't know what he's blackmailing them with. However, we do know during the election when the Russians hacked the Democratic emails, he certainly has something in the Democrats, but they also hacked the Republicans too. And blackmail is standard fare for Donald Trump. That's what he does. That's what he's always done. So Benjamin Netanyahu too. Yeah, that's another example. We've got the Israeli-Hamas war. Donald Trump said he could end that one too, and he hasn't. Now, when this was all going on, there were a lot of people that didn't like what Joe Biden was doing, and they didn't vote, or they voted for Donald Trump. And I said, be careful what you ask for, because what Joe Biden is doing is something maybe you don't realize. He's pulling in the reins on Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu wants the war to continue because if the war ends, he's likely to go to jail and kicked out of office. So he has no motivation to end the war. So there was some pullback by Joe Biden to make sure the people in Gaza got the humanitarian support and that sort of thing. But when Donald Trump took over, I said, be prepared for Donald Trump to tell Benjamin Netanyahu, do whatever the fuck you want. And that's exactly what's going on. In fact, one Republican in the House said they should just nuke Gaza. Really? That's what you think. How do these dumb fucks end up being in our House of Representatives? It's absolutely fucking unbelievable. Angry Mongoose says Trump loves dictators. He's probably heartbroken that his bromance with Putin might be coming to an end. Yeah, I think Putin has some things on Donald Trump. I mean, Putin, for as vicious as he is, Donald Trump shouldn't be surprised that he's killing people. He is a murderous dictator and always has been. But Donald Trump has to be careful because, over and above being evil, Vladimir Putin's pretty smart and pretty evil in his own right. And Donald Trump might get spanked coming out of this thing. And this is the interesting thing about somebody like Donald Trump, somebody who is a um, um, malignant narcissist. They get to the point where they're pushed and they get mad and then they say anything without concern of retribution or what might happen by doing it. So I'm waiting for Donald Trump to go too far and say something about Vladimir Putin. And the shit is going to fly when that happens. The Brutal Truth Podcast, we need to take away military aid to Israel. I'll be honest with you, I don't really get much into that conversation because it's a touchy conversation. First of all, with regards to Israel, I have no qualms with the country of Israel and the people of Israel. The problem Israel has right now is they're being led by a mini Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. What needs to be done is to kick Benjamin Netanyahu out, as would be the case here in the United States, and getting Donald Trump the fuck out. And then things could be dramatically different. But, Donald Trump's supposed to be this friend of Israel, but he's negotiating with Qatar, who is the very country that supports Hamas. They can't be too happy about that. He's loosening sanctions on Syria, which is Israel's mortal enemy. How do you think Israel is feeling about that? I got to think they're not too happy. Sloan says Putin is playing him like a fiddle, and that's exactly true. I mean, that's what Vladimir Putin is good at. He's good at manipulation. And when you're going up against somebody like Donald Trump, who's an absolute idiot, it's not even fucking hard. I mean, I'll be honest with you. What I know about malignant narcissists, I could manipulate him because it's very simple. You pat him on the head, you pat him on the butt, you tell him he's a genius, and he'll give you whatever he wants. That's why when he talked to Vladimir Putin, that's what Vladimir Putin did. And then he goes over to Zelensky and said, hey, why don't you just give up? Give Vladimir everything he wants. He's a good guy. He's a friend of mine. Now he's questioning whether or not he's a friend because he says one thing to Donald Trump and does another when it comes to bombing Ukraine. I wonder how Donald Trump likes it dealing with somebody who's as big a liar and as big an asshole as he is, because that's what he's getting with Vladimir Putin. Beth Mayfield says, I agree, get Netanyahu and Trump out as soon as possible. That really is the answer. I mean, America is a good country, mostly good people, except for those people that follow Donald Trump. And Israel is a bunch of people that want peace and are good people too. The problem we have is that we have leaders that have enough support where they're getting away with just ridiculous shit, dangerous shit. Cheryl Stevens says, why don't the Republicans seem to be concerned about the midterms? You make a good point there. I said after the election that in a short time that Republicans will realize that he's more of a liability than an asset, especially for the midterms. And I would have thought by now that they would have kicked him to the curb because they're losing so much. And I was talking to Ed, I think, and what Ed seems to think is that it isn't bad enough for them yet, or they may be trying to get this budget deal passed, or they know the end is near and they're just trying to tear down the fucking hotel room. I don't know why. It seems kind of dumb. I mean, if I was a Republican right now and I saw the writing on the wall, seeing that Donald Trump will be going down, I don't want to be going down with him. So I would step back, step aside, maybe speak out against him. Yeah, it might be tough while he's in office, but when he's done, you'll be a lot better off. These people who have supported him all the way through, they're going to have to deal with some shit, and their careers may be over. Trump has lost his mind and he's out of touch with reality big time. I don't think that just happened. I think he's always been like that because he is a malignant narcissist. He has a weird view of the world and he thinks everything revolves around him. So that malady, that mental malady, has been with him his entire life. Throw in the fact that he's going to be 79 and he's got a little bit of dementia. There's no question about that when you hear him talk. That's just adding to the problem. Spacer7567 says Trump must be sobbing about the Greenland Europe minerals deal. Yeah, I like that. I like that. One of the things that Donald Trump liked about Greenland was the minerals deal. And one of the reasons he needs minerals is because he pissed off China. 90% of our minerals, our rare earth minerals, came from China. China said, fuck you, we're not sending anymore. So that's why he was pushing Zelensky for that deal. Um, and uh, and he wanted Greenland. So now that they did a deal with Europe, uh, you won't probably hear much about Greenland anymore because they don't have anything that is valuable to him anymore. Cutting Medicaid and Medicare and SNAP benefits, they will lose the midterm elections. There's no question about that because it will have an immediate impact and people will be angry. They will be upset. I think even before the midterm elections, you're going to see more people on the streets. You might even see some violence. I mean, when you think about taking away people's livelihoods, putting elderly people on the street, taking away health care from kids, how long do you think even red states are going to tolerate that shit? Yeah, I think you're right about that. Fawn McFarland says, plus the temperament reminds me of Alzheimer's. You make a good point. I've had some relatives that have had Alzheimer's, and it's a terrible disease. But I don't know anything about the medical aspects of Alzheimer's, but there is a uh, there is a period of time where they do get angry and they can test virtually everybody. So yeah, I think there's a lot of symptoms that we're seeing from Donald Trump that may be in line with Alzheimer's or dementia or something. I mean, the motherfucker's um, been been mindless for a long time, but now with the onset of dementia or whatever, it's really starting to show. Um, he has the U.S. military at the Mexico border, which they have no authority to be there. There's nothing they can really do. It's just a matter of standing there, and I guess they section off some strip of land, and if immigrants come in there, then the military can do something about it. It's just another game Donald Trump is playing, some kind of loophole he's trying to exercise, and it won't work. For the Truth podcast, since my mom had Alzheimer's, yeah, I had a grandmother that had Alzheimer's. Very sweet woman, and she never got to that point where she was angry. But you got to understand, if you've lived your whole life and now everything is confusing, you can understand where that anger comes from. FEMA denying funds to MAGA states can't help the midterms. No, I mean, we have the destruction in Arkansas, North Carolina, Georgia, now Kentucky with the tornadoes. Some 25 people died in those storms. And there's two aspects of this that are bad. First of all, FEMA is not going to be there to help them. I mean, Sarah Huckabee Sanders called Donald Trump her best buddy, trying to get help for her state, and he basically said, fuck off. And Kansas Kentucky's going to have the same situation. There is going to be no help. But over and above the FEMA situation, another problem with this is they fired so many people with the National Weather Service that there was nobody working overnight in that area to warn people ahead of time about what was coming. And that may be part and parcel as to why so many people died. Donald Trump is causing all kinds of problems for the red states. I mean, we've got the hurricane season coming up, and who does that affect? Texas, Florida, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, North and South Carolina. What happens when we get a F5 tornado or a Category 5 uh, hurricane hit one of these red states and there is no help to be had? There's going to be people screaming, no question. Spacer 7567 says this is a problem with the Democrats where I think some emit arrogance. Glusenkamp Perez is an example where she believes she won't be primaried because of her seat being a swing seat. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. People have gotten too comfortable in their positions. They're too caught up in their own alleged power. They think that because they've got an easy seat and they've got name recognition, they will get voted in. And that's where David Hogg comes in. He is the vice chair of the DNC. He's a young kid. He's in a ceremonial spot, but he wants to start primarying these people. And I think he's got a good idea. Now, the Democrat establishment does not want that to happen because they just want to go along to get along and keep everything the way it's supposed to be going. So they're comfortable and they have their power and their money and all that stuff. But the problem is there has to be some dramatic changes made to the Democratic Party. Don't believe me? Take a look at November 5th, 2024. We lose the presidency, we lose the House, and we lose the Senate. Whatever the establishment was doing up to that point, clearly not right. It was wrong. So, in my estimation, if you're doing something and it's wrong, hey, maybe try something different. The other aspect of it is we've got too many old people in seats of power. Right at this moment, in this session, we have 3 Democratic reps that have died. So we've got 3 seats that don't have anybody in there, and they're going to have a special election. Well, that hurts us when we've got a bill like the big beautiful bill to pass or try to stop because we don't have the numbers that we need. We've got uh, um, we've got people that have gone past their expiration date. We need to get them out of there, even if they're in easy positions. And we need people that will stand up and do something. Like I say, these people are too set in their positions. They're comfortable. They don't want to do anything. The problem is that would have been okay in the 90s or the early 2000s when politics was just politics. But that's not what it is anymore. That's not what it is. We're in a street fight. So we need fucking warriors. If you're not a warrior, you need to go sit down on the fucking sidelines and wait till it's over. How long can he defy the courts and Supreme Court? Well, that's a good question. The courts are going to have to do something. And somebody once said the best way to take down a dictator is to take down the pillars that raise that dictator up. And what they mean by that is, like, for example, in these court cases, when they aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, you do have to find contempt of court. Now, you're not going to get Donald Trump on contempt of court, but you can get all his lawyers on contempt of court. You fine them or you sanction them or you disbar them. You don't want it criminal contempt of court because what will happen then is Donald Trump will have the capability of pardoning them. But if it's civil, like heavy fines, sanctions, or disbarment, Donald Trump can't do shit about that. And that's the way to probably go with it. And that's what it's going to take. I know the courts are fearful of taking that action. It's unprecedented. It's never happened before. But what you have to understand is none of this shit has ever happened before. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And the courts are going to have to realize that. Trump and MAGA Republicans, hold on. Trump and MAGA Republicans are going to be desperate to pass the SAVE Act before the midterms. Yeah, they're going to be, but they're having all kinds of problems in the Senate. They are going to be desperate. If they don't pass that, they're going to have a lot of problems. They're going to look ineffective, inefficient, and all these oligarchs that are taking it in the ass in the stock market are thinking, at least I get a tax break. If they don't get that tax break, there's going to be some pissed off cowboys in there. Cheryl says it seems as if Pelosi and Jeffries are sabotaging the Democratic Party. Yeah, I think to an extent you're right. They don't like these young, tough representatives. They want to keep everything as normal. Nancy Pelosi needs to fucking retire. Hakeem Jeffries needs to grow a pair. He's too tied in with the establishment Democrats, and he's a good representative. He's a strong voice, but he's being held back by the old people in the House of Representatives. They're doing this because Trump thinks he's untouchable and above the law. Well, as long as he's president, that's true, but he won't be president for long. Eventually, he'll be out, and then he is touchable. People will say, "Well, he had that immunity." Well, I tell you where immunity doesn't come into play, and it's very specific in the ruling. It doesn't come into play in terms of bribery. And we know there's a lot of bribery going on when he's over in the Middle East or when he's having his little crypto luncheon. There was bribery involved there. And if he's still with us, and I don't know about his health, but it doesn't look good. If he's still with us and he's no longer president, he's going to see some more courtrooms, I guarantee you. And he's not going to be able to try to put it off by saying, "I'm running again." Sorry, bitch, you can't run again. You're not running again. Continue on. I have 4 friends that teach law school in big name college. They're going to file court papers in the U.S. Supreme Court for them to relook into the Trump presumptive immunity because he's following court orders, district court, the Supreme Court. They feel they have a good chance of pulling it off. On July 1, 2024, the court ruled in a 6-3 decision that the president have absolute immunity for acts committed as president within their core, constitutional purview, at least presumptive immunity for official acts within the outer perimeter of their official responsibility, and have no immunity for unofficial acts. That's true. And what Donald Trump will do is he'll claim everything he's done as official acts, but there are some things he can't do that for. As he continues to do damage and his support continues to wane, there's going to be less support in the courts, and he will not win as much as he's won in the past. And lately, he's not winning at all. Levin says the crypto dinner was on his own time. That's indictable. His immunity will not work in that case. You're absolutely right about that. And that's one of the points I was trying to get to. Carolyn Levitt, his spokesperson, was asked about the dinner for the crypto thing, and she said it was on his own time. Really? Well, there's video of it, and he had the presidential seal there. That was kind of interesting, wasn't it? But okay, if you want to say it was on his own time, you're absolutely right. That would mean it's not an official act, as they've confessed to. And if it's not a official act, and it's clearly bribery, that is indictable. Now, the problem with that right now is that Pam Bondi, the AG, who is the puppet of Donald Trump, would be in charge of indicting somebody. That's never going to happen as long as she is the attorney general or as long as Trump fucks have any control or power at all. Spacer 7567 says the establishment wing of the Democrats have been trying to unseat AOC for the last several elections. Look at what they did to Jamal Bowman. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And that's the thing that's most frustrating. It seems like we're working against the Republicans and we're working against some Democrats. And this is why they lose. They think they're smarter than everybody. They're kind of elite. They're about their own money. Don't be surprised if you hear that they got in the hands of the pockets of some oligarchs too, Democrats. They're trying to hold on to what they've got. They don't care what happens to the country. I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of these people are hoping that bill passes and it does horrific damage because they think that will help them in the election, which tells me they care more about elections than they do about the people in this country because people are going to suffer. They are currently suffering, and the Democrats don't seem to care. If you don't change some shit up, get rid of the old people, you're going to have problems in upcoming elections. You won't always have um, the absolute losers in the Republican Party that we currently have. The Democrats want any kind of control going on into the future. They're going to have to change some things. Sloan says, bring Abrego home, then we will look at this bill, is what the Senate should say. Well, yeah, that's a good point. Bring Abrego home, and then we'll talk about the bill. That's a little horse trading. That is the whole point of Congress. There's supposed to be negotiation. There's supposed to be compromise, but in the last 10 years, that hasn't happened. Republicans vote against Democrats, Democrats vote against Republicans, nothing gets done. Proof of that is in the first 100 days of this session of Congress and the House, they passed 5 bills, the lowest number of bills in the history of this country. This is what Republicans do. They don't do anything. They make noise. They call out the Democrats. And beyond that, 2 years previous, during the Biden administration, they had control of the House and nothing got done. That's one of my biggest annoyances about Donald Trump winning and the Republicans winning the House and the Senate. Over and above all the crimes and criminality that are going to have happen, there is nothing going to get done. And if you're excited about the prospect of Democrats winning the House and the Senate, thinking we'll get something done, well, think again. Unless we have a supermajority, even if it passes the House and the Senate, Donald Trump won't sign it. So Donald Trump really is the problem, and we need to get beyond him at some point in some way, whether it's his own mortality or whether the Republicans decide they want to impeach him. I don't know what it's got to be, but that's got to happen if we hope to get anything moving in the right direction. Robin Lynch says these times require the new, fresh ideas of the younger Democrats if our democracy has any chance of surviving. I agree with you wholeheartedly. We need some fresh ideas because we saw what their old ideas accomplished in the November 5th election. Fawn McFarland, they want the bill passed, won't it neuter the courts? That's a good point. In this bill, they slipped a section in it that basically gives Donald Trump some freedom to do whatever he wants with the courts. Now, they want to pass this bill on reconciliation, which means they don't have to deal with the filibuster. They only need a simple majority. They only need to win by 1 vote. But in order to do that, it has to be all about fiscal shit. It has to do with the budget and stuff. The fact that that is in that bill, that would make it not qualified to do reconciliation because everything has to be about the financial aspects or budget. With that section in there, theoretically, the Democrats could say, okay, we can't do reconciliation because you got this one fucked up thing there. Now you need 60 votes. Watch them scream when they start talking about that. But, the Republicans do what the Republicans do. They try to slip things in and out, and hopefully nobody will notice. But you know what's the funny thing about them? Everybody fucking notices. They get caught every time. It's just, they must think everybody is as ignorant as they are. But you're right. The reconciliation thing could be off the table if they continue with that section. Now, when it gets to the Senate, they're going to try to change a bunch of things. There are people in the Senate that won't sign that bill. I don't think it passes the Senate, but we'll see. I also worry about resource allocation within the Democratic Party. In 2026, here in Ohio, the gubernatorial election is taking place, and the Democrats have Amy Acton, a good person for the job. but little name recognition against goofball Vivek Ramaswamy. Yeah. The only thing I will say about that is when we've seen Trump acolytes like Vivek Ramaswamy spouting this crazy bullshit, they don't tend to do well in the elections because they're just so fucking out there. Even if they are supported by Donald Trump, the fact that they support conspiracy theories and all that, they're going to have a problem. The other thing about Vivek Ramaswamy is this. What do we know about Republicans? They don't like brown people and they don't like immigrants. And Vivek Ramaswamy is both of those things. And you notice Vivek Ramaswamy isn't in the cabinet for as much as Donald Trump liked him. In fact, they kicked him out of Doge too. So I don't know how strong and how much support Vivek Ramaswamy is going to get. You know, we were talking about the little bromance breakup with Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. We should also probably talk about his problems with Elon Musk. Excuse me. As I get down to the last part of the hour, my throat starts to go because of this cold. But Elon Musk has said that he's going to go back to work, go back to working with his companies 24/7. He needs to get that straightened out. Yeah, you think? He wants to go back to X, which is having all kinds of problems with outages, among other things, and losing money. XAI, we don't even know what's up with that thing. And then, of course, Tesla. Well, Tesla is sinking every day. And even if he goes back and works for Tesla and stays out of the news, he's done too much damage. He's done far too much damage, and Tesla is going to sink. But Donald Trump has basically said, get the fuck out of here. You're not helping me anymore. You're worth nothing to me. We're going to kick you to the curb. And Elon is just trying to save his fortune, which he won't be able to do. He's already done too much damage. The nomination was basically handed to him, too. So much for caring about primary contest, as they complained about with Biden handing off the nomination to Kamala Harris. Well, yeah, absolutely. If they do it, it's fine. If the Democrats do it, it's a scandal. Excuse me. Musk was a total failure, and so is Doge. Absolutely. Musk said he would save $2 trillion. Then he backed down to $1 trillion. And when it was all said and done, the cuts he made amount to $150 billion. Quite a bit, and quite a bit of damage done. But when it's all figured out, it cost this country more money than it saved us. The waste was Musk himself and his little Doge team. I mean, if you look at the amount of money spent by this government in the first 100 days, it exceeds the amount spent during the same time last year by 200 billion. Yeah, how much did you save us? How much did you help us? I'm going to have to wrap things up here pretty quick. Now, you're talking about Starlink. An interesting thing we found out about Starlink, that's somehow tied to the tariffs. I'll explain. What we're finding out now is that with these tariffs, they're going in and saying, we want this, we want this. And oh, by the way, if you sign a contract with Starlink, Elon Musk's company, we'll go easier on you. So Elon makes money, and clearly Donald Trump will get a taste of that too. Yeah, there's all kinds of corruption. And this will come out eventually. Somebody will pay the price. Elon, probably. I got to tell you, my throat is killing me right now. So I'm going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast and this Substack Live. I want to thank all of you for coming out and helping me out here. Without you, I couldn't have done this, and I appreciate it immensely. So thank you for coming in, participating. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.